Hello, listeners, and welcome to today's episode of Show Me Your Hustle. I am so excited to be sitting down with Adam Robinson. Adam, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're working on?
Yeah, I'm the founder and CEO of retention.com and RB2B. Both companies help our customers identify anonymous website visitors, and without them filling out a form, we can get down to who that person is. Retention.com helps e-commerce stores with basically like e-commerce abandonment flows. So like it helps people send more abandoned carts, abandoned product, abandoned whatever through this identity product. And then RB2B helps sales teams with this signal
Got it.
of a site visit, which is like the most valuable signal. And it's either like a prospecting signal, like, oh, you should pay more attention to this person, or if somebody's like working a deal, it's good to know when
Yeah.
the prospect's sniffing around. So that's what those two companies do.
Love it. All right, let's jump in to your stack breakdown. So, first off, what is your personal hustle stack that you have used to educate yourself or drive habits with?
Um, are we talking about like
Like
media or?
books or
Yeah,
any like
okay.
secrets to your what drives your CEO hustle?
So like the I have come across a podcast that I'm totally obsessed with.
Okay.
Um, it's called Founders, and the host is named David Senra. And the idea
Okay.
is he reads biographies and autobiographies of the most successful people in the history of the world.
Mm, okay.
Most are business, but a lot are not. It's like artists and athletes and stuff like that. And the thing
Right.
that I find amazing about it is it's kind of like they're all the same person. They just do different things. They're
Mm,
people who are just wildly focused and committed to their craft or discipline or whatever you want to call it
right.
over many decades with an unbelievable bar for quality and excellence who put incredible team members around them. They're all the same, whether it's Jay-Z, Michael Jordan, Sam Walton, Sam Zell, Elon Musk. Like they all check all of those boxes. And there's like nuances about their
Yeah.
personalities other than that, but
Right.
like that is the thing that I think is the most important for me right now. It's like, how can I keep raising the bar for quality? How can I keep raising the bar for talent? How can I live my
Yeah.
life in the way to where I have energy to pursue this for 50 years? You know?
I love that. I need to dive into. I'm looking. I'm like, oh, like Taylor Swift, all of them, like you
Oh
said.
man, it's
Yeah.
like it's
So
incredible. Yeah,
interesting. Yeah.
it's every and they're all the same, which is like what's so crazy, right? They're just kind
Yeah.
of doing different things, but like the commitment to it is like what is
Right.
universal because you can't
Right.
do it without that, right? Like,
Hmm.
um, anyway,
I love that.
yeah.
That's awesome. All right. What about your personal product stack? What can you not live without?
Uh, so I don't know. Like, I write things down to not forget them in Trello, but like, I don't
Hmm.
really like to, it's just because I've been using it forever. Like, I'm
Right.
sure there's a better way to do it. Um, Google Calendar is a thing that, like, I'm just like, I believe that the human brain is not set up to remember details in like the medium term. So, like,
Hmm. Right.
I'm all about just like when something occurs to me, it either needs to get put in my sort of like medium to do list or put on a calendar to like,
Yes.
remind me or my wife or my coworkers or whatever about. Um,
Right.
so that those are two pieces of tech, a piece of like tech in the metaphorical sense
Hmm.
that like we've been using a lot is like we started working, I have a team of 40, which is not huge, but it's not small. And you have to like run a team of 40, like you run a team of 1,000 basically, or it
Right.
just doesn't work. So we started working with an executive coach at the beginning of the year and or last year. And
Hmm.
we are still in the process of rolling out EOS, which is this
Oh, yeah.
kind of like goal setting. It's a focus and accountability
Yes.
mechanism.
Hmm.
And it's slow, and to do it right, it's hard. And it has been amazing for us in terms of just like increasing the focus of the organization, eliminating noise from
Right.
people's lives and jobs, and just being very clear about expectations and deliverables, which is all, all management really is. And, before we started doing this, we all sucked at it. So and it's easy to read that book and think, oh, we should do that. But like having someone alongside you for many years, helping you actually build
Implement it,
the habit of managing like this is what's necessary. Right. So in my opinion, for us at least. So
yeah, I love that. We are doing the 5 dysfunctions of a team internally. So similar concepts and rolling all that out. But I have heard about that mechanism as well. So very interesting. All right. This is my favorite question to hear from CEOs. You're running straight forward. You have your North Star, you have your vision, and you realize you're running in the wrong direction. You have to pivot. Do you have a recent example of your big pivot?
So, I have a lot of recent examples of that. We started this company called RB2B. It got from 0 to 4 million ARR bootstrapped with 5 people in 9 months, which not many people get to do. However, it hit a wall because the way, like, we had built this entire marketing mechanism that was like, it was PLG, but we were instructing people to use it through my content in UGC in a way, and we were instructing people to measure success in a way that was flat out wrong for like 90% of people who used it. Like we were telling them to like run it through Clay, do ICP filtering, shoot it out the instantly smart lead spam cannon, wait for them to like book a demo, and like the demo would be the measure of success of this. Whereas like we have a very strong hypothesis that it is obvious why a web visit is valuable. And rather than either doing that or putting a human being in front of a Slack channel to monitor this noisy, thing and then figure it out, which is like the other use case that we were selling, we need to build a product that gets reps this signal without the rep having to onboard a platform, which is like what everybody else is doing who kind of is in the signal space. So like, I believe that signals are mission critical for selling, but I don't believe it's going to be easy to get a sales team of 50 people to adopt a entirely new platform. So like the whole pivot is like, can we accomplish 80% of the value of these dope ass platforms that people are building to like help activate signals, but do it through onboarding and building workflows with our customers in the CRM and like, kind of meeting the rep with the signal where they are working already, whether that be in their inbox or like, in the CRM or whatever. So that's like a pretty big pivot, last year, another one, and I'll be quick on this one. In the other business, retention.com, like we had 55 people and we realized our business throughput was like a fraction of what it was a year and a half ago because of a lot of different reasons. Like we kind of like had reached this market penetration level and we're going up market. So like less deals are going through the entire thing. And we thought we could do the same thing with half the team. And like, we were already wildly profitable. So it was like kind of confusing why you would downsize when you're, wildly profitable. But we did it. And then, as always happens, you want to be the smallest version of yourself at every phase of the journey. Everyone's like, I don't know how we could live without these people. And then 2 weeks later, they're like, holy shit, this is like amazing. Like all of the problems I had are gone.
Interesting.
So yeah, those are 2 pivots. But that happened, this kind of stuff. I mean, we're, 25 million ARR startup, like kind of, there's things like this that happen every quarter, every month, it's like, oh, we're running in the wrong direction. Shit. I think
that's why we do startups, right? Is that you have the ability to be agile and make those decisions and pivots and quickly. So interesting. I love that. Thanks for sharing that. All right. My favorite rapid fire questions. What startup do you admire right now? Who are you following?
So I think my favorite is Clay. They just have they're doing so many things that I don't have
Mm-hmm.
the strength to do. Uh,
Yes.
they're like, their vision is so large, and it's so inspiring.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that I think is interesting that I don't have the strength to do is they are willingly sacrificing uh, ease of use for flexibility. And I just like don't
Yeah.
have that part of my brain. To me, software is about doing things for you so that you don't have to think, right? And like,
Right.
I just remember the first time I used Clay, I was like, man, this is like learning a hard piano piece.
Right.
Like, I just can't believe, you know what I mean? Like, I can't believe that these guys are going to market with this feeling. But like, hey, man, they're right, I'm wrong. Like, it's like,
I
the thing that's amazing about it to me is like, you can replace all of SaaS with Clay, basically.
yeah.
I'm like, they
I
don't charge
mean,
SaaS fees. They just like want you to buy credits, you know? So it's this why it's going to be so interesting. It's like Clay is eating SaaS. It's not AI.
well,
You
and
know?
you look at their funding schedule and their VC track, and it's wild.
Hmm.
Like it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah. I had them on my
so.
live show. I had Varun on my live show yesterday and we talked about it. He thinks it's going to look like a bargain in like 3 months. I was like, man, that is
Yeah.
incredible. You know?
Yeah, I met them at Inbound this year, the team. So
Cool.
it's wild. Yes, they're
Yeah.
crushing it right now. All right, next up, what would your 10-year-old self think about where you're at right now?
Uh, at 10 years old, I'm not like I'm 44, so I was 10 in 1990. And like
Hmm.
I didn't really know I don't know if there was an internet yet. I don't think we had AOL. Maybe we just got an AOL.
The Sidekick
Uh,
was about to come
y-
out, the
Yeah,
Razor.
like I uh, definitely with like what I wanted from
Hmm.
my adult life. If I were looking at it now, I would be like, wow, that's amazing. Like kind of being in a
Yeah.
position where I'm waking up every day. I'm very excited about what I'm
Hmm.
doing. I'm like, the kind of like strategic, like, direction caller for something. It's giving me this great life. Like I'm
Hmm.
working with great people. I think all of that is, I don't know what else I could have hoped for. I just knew that it was like what I was looking for. And then finally, when I was like, oh, if I start a business and am successful at it, I'll
Right.
get all of that stuff. So it's like, well, then I'll just do that. But if it were like the only way to get that is to be an orthopedic surgeon, which like when I was in high school, that was what I thought, because when I was in high school in Houston, those guys were the guys that like had all that. I
Right.
would have just done that, but it like
Yeah.
happened to be that like this was the path to it, you know.
Interesting. Okay, with that, how'd you get started?
So I was a I was a credit default swap trader. I worked at Lehman Brothers for 10 years.
Hmm.
The day that I showed up in New York to go work that job, two guys named Jake Lodwick and Zach Klein were creating a website in the apartment that I was living in called Vimeo.
Okay.
And yeah, and like I watched that whole thing happen to these guys who were my friends. And
Hmm.
the whole time I was in finance, I was doing great. They literally made like a movie about the job that I had called The Big Short.
Yeah.
Uh, but like they were definitely getting more out of their lives. So after the financial crisis, I had actually managed to like save a substantial amount of money, so much so that like I was able to just be like, I kind of don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to go try to be an entrepreneur like my friends were and
Hmm.
start a company in this really cool apartment we're in. If it doesn't work and I run out of money, I'm just going to go back to Wall Street. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't have any
Yeah.
kids. Like it was like the perfect time. I was like
Right.
30 or something. Um, or young 30s. And yeah, so like I just started on this really long and painful journey. It's very difficult to describe to people how little transferable skill there is between the credit default swap trading job and like
I can't.
creating
Yeah.
It's just like you never know. Like if you're in finance, you really don't get it. But like
No.
there's nothing in common with like what I knew and what I do now.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just, thank God I got my first business to work. But like, I tried a bunch of stuff, and then like, this is still kind of to the extent like what I do. I think my intuition's just a little bit better now. But like, I tried a bunch of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Out of the 6 or 7 things that I tried, one worked, and I stuck with
Mm-hmm.
it. And then I sort of, retention.com spun out. It was a feature in that first, it was an email newsletter
Mm.
app. So it was an identity
Okay.
feature in the email newsletter app. No one wanted to use the email newsletter app. Everybody wanted the identity feature. Spun it out, sold the email newsletter app. So like grew that to over 20 million ARR bootstrapped. And then, one of my coworkers 2 years ago was like, we need to make this for B2B. People are only doing company level ID for B2B. People want
Mm-hmm.
personal level ID for B2B. We should do this for B2B.
Right.
So we made a
Right.
different product with a different go-to-market team, whatever, back end, all that stuff. And that's what our B2B was. So it's been this really long journey of just like stacking bigger and bigger things on top of each other, which I believe more people should do. I don't think it's that hard to create a SaaS or a tech company with like a few million in revenue. It's like really hard on your first attempt to try to create a unicorn, which is like what happens when you go do VC. And it's especially hard because my experience of being an entrepreneur is you're constantly getting stuck and unstuck. And
Yeah.
if you get stuck at the wrong time when you're dependent on outside funding to run your business, like you are done, like you're toast, and like
Yeah.
that's built into your investor's model, and it's not built into like you paying for your kids' food and stuff. So,
Right.
so
Right.
yeah, I have this great megaphone now from creating a bunch of awesome content for a few years, and I'm really trying to tell this story that like
Mm-hmm.
you can, in many ways, have like a much better outcome by like for some reason
Interesting.
it's not appealing to like have it take longer, but like I'm not
Yeah.
even sure if it does take longer. Like there's not a short way to like build a great company. Like money's not a
Yeah.
shortcut. It can accelerate things, but it usually does it in a bad way. There's a few situations in which it really works, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Do you think
that's
that
fine.
so interesting that you're bringing this up? So I fell into a unicorn, had no idea I was in one when it happened.
Yeah.
I was in my early 20s, straight out of college. I live in Utah. It's pretty common here. And I joined Pluralsight in their early startup days, pre Series A. And I stayed for 8 years through IPO, and then ironically, Vista buys them and takes them off the market.
Yeah.
So I
And then
fortunately
Vista
got to
wrote that
live.
investment to zero, by the way,
Right. So I'm like,
which is crazy. Yeah.
I spent 36 weeks on the road my first year, straight out of college, hitting every trade show, just filling the brand funnel. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this is awesome. Like, we're taking money, like, I'm living the dream. Had no idea even what a tech unicorn was or
Right.
that I was in one at the time. And now I'm at a bootstrap startup. And so your summary of what the difference is, and I'm like, it actually took 17 years for the Pluralsight journey to fully come out. And at the time, it felt fast. It felt like it was A,
Yeah.
B, C, IPO. But in the big scheme of things, it was a 17-year run for all that to happen.
Yeah.
And I think that's
And that
one
was like
thing
a
that people
pretty,
miss.
yeah, and that was a pretty successful run. Like two things happened in the last 2 weeks that I think like are emblematic of what normally happens. So like there's a company
Mm-hmm.
called, I pay attention to the email space. There are two companies, one called Infusionsoft and one
Mm-hmm.
called Acton. So
Yeah.
Infusionsoft has been around for 23 years, raised $100 million, and last week they sold for 80 million, which like is not good, right? Like
No, yeah, you're like, that's
because the
not an ideal
investors with
situation.
yeah, like with the
Yeah.
money that goes in, the investors get paid back before anybody else does. So zero, it's like the investors got 80 cents on the dollar after 23 years, and
Right.
no one else got anything, right? So, and
Yeah.
then this other company called Acton, even worse. It's like a B2B marketing automation platform, less known than Infusionsoft. So
Yeah.
raised 53 million at VC, sold for 53 million to a SPAC. 20% of it was cash, 80% stock and warrants, right? So like that to me is, it's like worse than failing
Mm-hmm.
to like be just successful enough to keep going.
Yeah.
And then like eventually everyone throws their hands in the air and just like pukes this thing,
Right.
right? Like in
Right.
that, like I guarantee you when they were raising those rounds throughout their journey, it was the most exciting fucking thing in the world, and they were going to be the next Google and like
Yeah.
whatever else. But like it's really, really, really. Here's the point: for every two of those, there's 1,000 people that are stuck there and have not acknowledged that that's the
Yeah.
position that they're in. You know.
So you've mentioned bootstrap a couple times throughout this, and I do like where the market's at right now. Funding is different to come by and everything. Do you feel that that is the play for the market right now, and staying
Well,
bootstrap as long as possible?
my point is not necessarily right now. I just believe that that the fundamentals of business are super simple. Make things your
Okay.
customers love and make more money than you spend. And the fact that tech has a right now attitude about this,
Right.
I think gets people in a lot of trouble, right? Because it's like, I had this debate with this dude who was like the first employee of Outreach.io. He's like, well, I mean, you were an idiot if you didn't take all that money at that time. It's like, dude, like, well, now that company is totally fucked. Like,
Yeah.
they raised it 40 times revenue. Like, they've raised $500 million and the company's not worth $500 million. And now they're forced to do, because you can't stop growing when you raise at 40 times your revenue, right?
Yeah.
Like it just
You-
it's like the Pluralsight thing.
right.
Like if Vista bought that at 40 times their revenue, they would have marked it to zero. You know what I mean? Like just like Pluralsight. So like this argument that like, oh, you know, when the whiskey's flowing, drink like a sailor. It's like that doesn't work in the long term, right? So like, you know
Right.
what always works? Making stuff your customers love and making more money than you spend, right? So like for me, it's like obvious why you should do that. I think it's high probability that if you're a talented, first of all, I think it's like you can get to the point as a team when you're in like the 20s and 30s and 40s ARR, even if you're not growing that fast, if you're running it super lean, it's an amazing company for everybody. Like
Right.
the founders are doing great. Like there's just like, you know, it's a stable environment for the employees. You can provide them with like intellectual and interpersonal and financial capital, and like, you know, you can create a good brand. You have resources to do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
And you have true independence, and you don't have a seat at the table that's like playing a portfolio game when like you're betting your whole life on this, right? Like,
Right. Right.
and it's like impossible to overstate the value of that. So yeah, I'm just trying to tell this like it's like I interpret it as like, oh, you're either bootstrapped and you're fucking tiny, or you're on this other path, right? And like a lot of these companies, it's like if you get stuck at 30 million ARR and you raised 50, that's a huge problem.
Right.
If you get
Right.
stuck at 30 million ARR and you're generating $1 million of free cash a month, that's actually not a problem at all. It's a challenge, and that's it. And like, it's a challenge to figure out like any other challenge. So I think many businesses that go for a unicorn and get stuck, which a lot of them do, had they done it another way, it just, you know, you'd be operating in a completely different paradigm. So that's why I like telling this story. It's like, you know, there's a lot of in-between businesses that were never going to make it, but unfortunately they like fell into the seduction of trying, you know?
Oh, yeah. All right, last question.
Yep.
What is your biggest challenge right now with being a CEO?
With being a CEO, I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of like a product guy. This RB, you know, the biggest challenges I'm trying to solve this year are product related challenges. And it's not just me trying to solve it. It's like all of our teams. So like in the ecom business, we're trying to go up market. We've identified an opportunity with large publishers where we can help them in the ad tech world through identity resolution, but like we can't speak fluently in their language yet. So like that's a big challenge. And I'm like getting involved in that myself because like I really want to understand the nitty gritty. And then with the B2B business, our B2B, it's exactly what I said before. It's like we have a hypothesis about delivering signals to reps without a platform that we need to validate. So the challenge is like, how do I can't do all of this myself, right? So
Right.
like, how do we like line up the right people with the right prospects to sort of collect the information and get it, collectively to the organization in a way to where we end up doing the right thing, and the right thing would be creating badass products that our customers want, and there's like a real reason they're going to use us and not everyone else. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's my biggest challenge this year. It changes every year. A lot of times
And
it's related to product, but that's that's what it is.
you said one thing that sparked to me, and it was people. How do you know how to hire the right people? Like, do you see it instantly in the interview process or
I
intuition over
I
time?
I don't. Uh, our track record would suggest that we're not amazing at it.
Okay.
It took us a lot of hiring to end up
Mm-hmm.
with
Mm-hmm.
way fewer people than we hired that are awesome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
interviewing is tough, screening is tough. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know the answer to that. It's just other than like to be trying to like build network for the future, and then hopefully the people you're building network with also have networks of
Yeah.
people. Like that's kind of like the best strategy I know, but it's super long term.
Yeah.
I don't know. Uh,
Have you had those unicorn hires where they're like, this person
oh yeah,
will be
I
with
mean
me from the, yeah,
we have
and they,
yeah, definitely. But we've had more that are not that,
yeah,
and many of them, I would have told you like, oh yeah, like do consulting first or whatever. But like, man, we even have a couple where I huge hires worked for them for 6 months before they came on, and it was just a total miss, for
yeah,
a reason that neither one of us saw.
yeah.
Um,
I hear coachable a lot from CEOs. That's like someone who can wear lots of hats and be coachable is invaluable.
yeah, look, I think that's always true, and I think what you're looking for depends a lot on the stage you're at and like
Mm-hmm.
what you're
Mm.
trying to solve for. So like there's like a builder versus executor
Yeah,
thing, right?
right.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
and that really depends on the type of it's like, and builders are harder to find.
Yeah.
So like if you can get it to the point where it's just an execution role, I think the odds that you're going to succeed with a hire are like much greater.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, I have not, I have not figured out how to systematically hire rock stars who will fit into our culture and succeed with an unbelievably high probability. I'm working on it.
Yeah,
Um,
I love it. I had
yeah,
to end on a hard question.
yeah,
So,
totally.
well, Adam, this has been really great and very insightful and knowledgeable for me. So, thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.